everyone? It's your girl V, and welcome to another season of Mindful Unfoldings. It is season 3, and we're back and we're better. Everyone must clap hands. Actually, let's play along. I'm so dead. I missed this chair so much. It's been a long 2 months, going on to 3, but we're back and we're better. And before we even yap about me, we'll have a whole different episode about that. But today, actually this season, I promised more guests, more spice, and today we're starting it off really nice. And I don't know how to introduce you because there's so much I want to say, but she is an engineer. She's also in Mrs. South Africa. That's happening soon. We'll talk about that as we go on in the episode, but I'm going to let you just introduce yourself to our people and tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, more about what you do and all of those stuff. And hi.
Hello, V. Nice to meet you.
How are you?
And thank you for the invite.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
No, I needed to come after you asked so nicely.
Yes.
So I like that. For my name, my full name is Nompumelelo. People call me Mpumi. Others know me as Mpumi Mangena. So I'm married now. So I am Mpumi Pule, Mrs.SA Finalist 2024. Hoo-hoo.
No, that's a big deal, actually. That's a big deal.
So professionally, I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm in the energy space for the past 20 years now. And I recently graduated as a coach. So I'm a professionally certified coach. Always wanted to be a psychologist. I've always been interested in the solving problems of people. So the solving problem is my core, hence engineering. But now as I grow and I'm realizing that, okay, I've turned 40 now.
Yeah.
And I want to focus more on people.
Yeah.
Because I love people. I love seeing people grow. Hence, one of my whys of entering Mrs. South Africa to just see how I use me to help people to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know where you grew up, but you can tell everyone where you grew up.
Sosha. I'm from Soshanguve, Block H. I'm the only child. So yeah, I'm a Pretoria girl. So I studied in Pretoria, began go to UT. I only moved from Pretoria probably 2005 when I got a job, my first job in Eskom. And yeah, I think from 2005 till now, I've been in that space, now servicing Eskom. And yeah, Ngwana Sosha, basically.
So how was it like growing up in Sosha, especially as the only child, as a girl?
So I think for me, it was a little bit different, maybe just a bit of background of my upbringing. I was an only child for a long time, but I grew up with my cousins.
Okay.
So my mom was the one with a good job in her space of siblings.
Yeah.
So most of the time, my cousins will come home or to where I was. And because at the time, my stepdad used to work for Telkom. So I could say we were okay as a family in terms of financially, as when my mother got married again around 1990. And then we moved from Soshanguve. So I would say between 12 and going to my high school, I was no longer in Soshanguve. So as a child in Soshanguve, it was quite interesting. It was nice. I think that's where a lot of people would remind me that I'm beautiful, that I'm smart. You know, you're growing up, Marole Black Beauty. You don't even understand why there's a black in front of this beauty. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but I could say that the people, they really were admiring my beauty and my intelligence. Mamita ma'am, mistress. So when after school, because I had this chalkboard, right? So I think my upbringing in Soshanguve has already really built who I was, because I had people that were saying, "Oh, Butlale, you are smart, you are beautiful," you know, and they believed in me so much that, you know, I always did well because I knew I had people behind me. You know, how about mistress? And I knew what and I do well, got a number 1, and then Malum Sipho or Mabuti will be saying, "Congratulations, of 10 rand, the big 10 rand," you know. So that was very encouraging. So I would say that I was really supported in that space as a young person that was seen as the potential person that will do well. People told me I'll do well. And I worked in that space of doing well because I'm told that I'm doing well or I'm going to do well. And yeah, I appreciate a lot of the guys that were my fathers, my uncles. I can say that I did not have the best father figure around me, but I had the best uncles around me who would remind me how smart I am.
Yeah.
Because at that time, I had not stayed with my stepdad at the time. So moving from Soshanguve, then now staying in Mountain View at the time, around 1997, life changed completely. You know, you think it changed for the better, but it didn't. It didn't change for the better. I think I was better off in Soshanguve than in Mountain View because now you're staying in the suburbs. You don't have a community anymore. Or, you know, suburbs, it's still few kind of black people at the time. The support structure is no longer there. You're faced it's me and mom. At the time, my mother then had a child.
Yeah.
And life changed completely for me,
Yeah.
moving from Soshanguve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can agree with everyone from Soshanguve that you are gorgeous. I'm getting lost in your eyes as we're speaking as well.
You so
You're
much.
very gorgeous. And I like the fact that you actually mentioned community, and we'll go back to that. So you speak a lot about challenges, and obviously now I can see how your confidence has been fueled around the people where you grew up and stuff like
Correct.
that. But now, how did we get to beauty and then engineering? Because that is like,
Right?
yeah, how did now the engineering aspect come into place?
So the beauty part started, I remember when we were young, we were having the beauty contest. I got block H, block K, block. So there was us competing, and I started pageantry at that time. I think I was 6'5". So pageantry was something that I'm in, right? I entered Miss primary school that I was in because, again, people are saying you are beautiful, you're smart. You know, at that time, they would ask you a question, what does ANC stand for? And I'll be the one person that knows that, you know?
Yeah.
And I would win those competitions, and I would constantly be encouraged to enter beauty pageants. But academically, I was also strong, you know. So maths, I loved maths. I was good in my academics. So when I moved from Soshanguve to stay with my mom and my dad at the time, then I went to a technical high school. And seeing that my stepdad at the time was working for Telkom, he was also doing well. He was a technician at Telkom. So I was kind of, okay, we can see that, okay, you go to school, you do a technical field, there's opportunities. But more than anything, because I went to a technical high school. So you get to grade 8 until matric, it's just maths and science. I didn't get to do accounting or any other thing, right? So you get to then be exposed to different trades. So I did mechanics, electronics, motor mechanics, you did fitting and turning, woodwork. So I was exposed to engineering at a young age.
Yeah.
And that made it easier for me to understand what engineering was about. Sometimes you would think engineering, you know, or you're thinking, okay, it's about fixing cars only. But I went to Pretoria Technical High School, and I was exposed to different fields of engineering. And I remember at grade 10, you needed to choose which field, which trade you want to go for. So I did electrical in high school. So from grade 10 to matric, that was the trade that I chose. Second choice was fitting and turning. So then when I left matric, it was clear. I mean, I can't do accounting, for example. I knew at the time that I wanted to do psychology because, again, I realized it was growing, this thing of understanding the brain and understanding human behavior and making people feel better. But at that time, my mom was like, you need to get out of this poverty. You are smart. So engineering, you're going to get a job quicker. So from a socioeconomic perspective, it made sense to do engineering. And I remember my mother at the time saying, psychology, okay, fine. And then where are you going to work? Who's going to afford to come there? It was not as popular as now when we're talking about mental health and wellness. At the time, it's either you're becoming a doctor because there was an HIV pandemic at the time, it was making sense, or it was engineering because it was a field that we didn't have a lot of black people or even females at the time. I remember in high school, in class, out of 40 boys, we were like 5 as girls, right? And to date, I'm grateful for my mother to just show me, to say it makes sense to study where there's a gap. And I think young people must also understand to say, yes, study what you have passion for or understand or think that you will make a difference. but also it should fit into the economy. It should fit into changing or contributing into the country. And I was like, okay, I'll go register electrical engineering, and then as mechanical as my second choice. And because of financial challenges, I delayed registering. And then electrical was full, mechanical was full, and lucky for me, they were able to open evening classes for mechanical, and I was able to start.
Yeah.
So that's the story of my start in mechanical engineering.
Yeah. So then I'm assuming now when you started mechanical engineering, you were younger than you were now. So now getting into the juicy stuff. Now I want to know, as a young Black South African woman in a very male-dominated industry, like what was the hardest thing you've ever had to deal with?
So I think for me, and I always hear that question, and I understand that a lot of our Black ladies are struggling in the industry. I honestly did not have to struggle. I think I was fortunate. In the engineering space, I remember getting into ESCOM, and I knew that I don't know much. Yes, you've got your papers. So you needed to get people in your corner. And one of the things that worked for me is that I could speak Afrikaans, right? Because I was staying in Mountain View, and I had people that in the bus, it was just me, and then everybody could. So I learned Afrikaans, and that worked for me. You know, I was able to fit in, you know. I still believe in that phase to say to win people over, at least speak their language. I mean, I understand engineering was for Africans. Majority of the people that understood technical stuff, you know, kids that went to do engineering because their dad could fix cars in a garage. They knew, you know what I mean? So you would not struggle when you've got a mentor or a community that of people that can support you, but you must also speak their language. At least for me, that was what worked, right? I was more welcomed, and I was always asking if I don't know. And people were always willing to help. You know, I was not sitting there as a Black child from Sosha, not understanding or not knowing and keeping quiet. I'm very vocal. I'm that person to say, that doesn't make sense. Like, how does that work? And I think people fell in love with that personality and the energy that I brought. And I remember during when you get into ESCOM, you do a training program for a year, and then depending on your luck or the opportunity that is presented to you or this gap that would be there, then I was able to get a job and be absorbed. Not everybody got that. Other of my colleagues or friends had to find other jobs or had to go back home, right? So I could say I've had favor. I was fortunate. And throughout then to almost 20 years, I was continuously supported, promoted by the very same men in the industry. I've consistently had mentors that I would go back and ask, you know, what's happening here, Fred? Like, there was a guy called Fred Hoffman who played a big role in getting me to understand the plant, you know. And as I reflect, moving different, I left ESCOM, I went to Kelvin. It's a new place. You don't know anybody yet, but I've built the relationships. I've asked questions. I would say, can you take me to the plant? It was available to go to the plant. I think that's one thing that sometimes they would say, women, you just want to look pretty. You don't want to go planting, you know. Me, I come like this, wear my overalls, my boots, helmets, torch. We go to the plant. We do what we need to do. We come back. You know, when people can see that you are really interested, you really want to learn, they're open to that, you know? And then obviously leaving another company to join the company that I'm in now. Again, I've joined as a sales engineer. I didn't know much. I had to learn how things are done. And I had still continuous great support from local engineers and offshore people that others I had not even met. We're still speaking over the phone, but because of the asking and the questions that I'm asking, I've honestly been supported. I would be lying to say, nah, I've suffered and people have not shared information. I've not experienced that, and I still say it's grace and favor, I suppose, of God that has just given me the personality that I have to cope and really enjoy my journey as an engineer.
I actually like that you don't have like a Black sad story. Like every time you think Black woman engineering or something so significant, you always expect some sad story of how you were treated. So it's nice to hear a really good successful story. And I think that also now we can go back to community and the people that sort of like helped you become who you are now. You mentioned the whole father figure and stuff like that. For me, for example, I also have a stepdad and all that. But I've always said, like, I'm very grateful to God to have given me the community of men who were able to play the role of a father figure that I needed. I can't say I lack because of the community that I was given. And you don't realize it in the moment until after you're like, oh, but I was taught that by X, Y, Z. So now, as someone who's probably chasing their wildest dreams as a young person, what then would you say that doesn't have a community or like doesn't have supportive parents maybe, or just doesn't know what they're doing it on their own? Now, what would you say? Because you also say building relationship is important and leaving a mark. I always say leaving a mark wherever you go. But for someone who's obviously figuring out that mark, what would you now say? Because you're so successful and I'm sure someone's going to look at you and be like, I want to be like her, but you don't have the resources to be like you. So now what would you say?
I always say, don't be scared to ask. Whether you're asking for advice, whether you're asking for financial help, whether you're asking for a view, what's the worst that can happen? Someone can say no. You know, I remember I've not even met this child that just was referred to me because I needed some tutor for other kids for maths. And a year later, she texts to say, you know what, I know this can come as a shock, but I need a tablet. I'm doing my 5th year in medicine, and I don't have a tablet, and I don't have a support structure. I don't get along with this person and that person. You're the only person I could come to. And that was, for me, a powerful moment. She said, I've never seen this person. I didn't even think for one bit that one scammer or I'm being, you know. I appreciated that must have taken a lot for her to do that, but it's important for her to have a tablet, for her to finish her medicine degree. And I literally said, don't worry, the fact that you are asking, it means you are really in need. And I responded positively in assisting. That is one example that I can give to say young people must learn to ask. You know, yes, sometimes it's not easy to always ask, but at least have a moment where you're saying, let me try. I don't step back. Raise your hand when you need help. I think now, for example, in my Mrs. South Africa journey, there's a lot of sponsorship that I need to be asking for. It's hard for me to be knocking in doors, but I'm strengthening my and I'm holding my pride and say, I must go and ask because I need help. Those that don't have resources, find people that you think might help you with resources, or get to understand places that would be able to offer you support. It's very important. People are there to help. If you just ask, you don't just wait and hope and be miserable in your own corner. There's a lot of organizations that are willing to help. I can tell you, like I said, I have resources, but I need more resources. So I need to call big companies and email them and say, I'm looking for sponsorship. And I cross my finger. And then they respond positively, like, you know, but I've went forward. So once we learn to just pause and say, okay, let me do it. Just do it. Ask for help. Find out who can help you in the space that you're in. Worst case scenario, if you're in find a lecture. I was very close to 2 or 3 lectures at school that knew issues at home that I had. And I remember every morning, whether I would write my exam, they would come and hold my hand and say good luck because they understood. So there's people that are there, just share what you're going through. You don't have to go through things alone.
So then you speak Mrs. South Africa. I also had to like remind myself because I also don't feel like it's not a very like as televised as the first one.
True.
So every time I speak, I always tell myself saying Mrs. not Miss.
Me and you
that
together.
That means you're married and I know you have a son.
Yes.
How are you navigating all of this?
So first of all, my husband is very hands-on. And when I say hands-on, he is those people that cook. He's very supportive in terms of ideas and very big shoulders because I am a lot. He's carrying me. And also I have a very strong support system in my friends and my colleagues. If I can't pick up Neo at school, somebody always is there
Yeah.
to help me out. If I can't pick up Neo or take Neo to drama, I know who to call. So my support system is very strong.
Yeah.
My mom and my new stepdad now have been the best thing ever as well. They are just there to support anything and everything that they believe that will make me happy. People that I work with, right? If I'm saying, you know what, can you just do this for me? I'm not available for 10 minutes. I'm taking an interview. They will be in my gap. They will stand in my gap.
Yeah.
It is not easy because people are also committed. People are also having their own plans. But I think the grace of God has been with me. Things are falling into place the way they should. I think they always say when your plans and God's plans are aligned, things fall into place. I cannot take credit that I'm a superhero in everything that is happening around me now. I can give full credit to God, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's always been that way? Like God and His favor?
Always been that way for my life.
Yeah.
Like He always shows up in the times that I need Him most. I've seen the love of God in my life throughout my upbringing to where I'm standing now. I remember the one prayer that I used to pray. So when I went to school, there was a bus stop, and in front of me there was a mountain. And there's that prayer,
Yes.
I would pray that prayer every morning. And the one thing I was praying for was for my mother to live longer to see my success. And my mother is still here. She's married
Love
again after the
that.
struggles and that we've seen with my other stepdad. And we celebrate life every day, and we're grateful for God just showing me that it's okay. Mama, your mother is here. She's married again. She's loved. I've got a dad now that I look up to, and just has redeemed men. I got to get married and recover and heal from my upbringing. You know what I mean? So God has been there.
You mentioned redeeming of men and your perspective of them. How difficult was that? Like moving from that traumatic headspace that you have of who men are to now having someone who loves you, who supports you, and your mother. Like, how did you now navigate that space?
It was not easy at all. I think for me it was easy to just block and say I'm focusing on my school. You know, I don't want a boyfriend because, you know, they bring no good. I've seen what my mother's life was. And that helped me to just stay focused in finishing my degree.
Yeah.
Eventually, as I was dating, I do not know what kind of a partner I was. Maybe they can give feedback, but I think I was very protective of myself. And, you know, I was like, okay, this is not working.
Sharp.
Kick sharp, you know? And that was me protecting myself all the time. But I still believed in love. I still believed in relationships from a perspective of I didn't say a lot of marriages work out in my family, but I had other family members or other families. Like this was one particular family, and I always make this example with my friend, Habo Pimelo. It's where I used to visit, and I could see the father, you know, what the father is. I remember when we were studying, we'll come, and I was like, okay, you know, Papa weta so, and I would always go to that house, and that kind of helped me kind of say, okay, you know, when there's netball, that father would be there. So I took him as my dad throughout, as a person of how I saw men to be. And that kind of helped a bit, you know, but it was also, okay, I need to see what's happening in my immediate space.
Yes.
And I think when eventually my mother was saying she's getting married again, and I realized I've not healed. I was not happy with that. I was like, why do you want to do this again? You're giving me another surname. What must I do with this? You know, we went through this painful journey of you getting married to this guy. Now you're bringing this guy. And I could see how she was adamant and how she was happy. And I kind of like, Mpumi, it's not about you. And I had to make peace to say, I probably have not healed. And she has. It took me a long time. I always make this analogy to say when somebody's in hot water, you know, like 1,000 degrees, the moment they get ice, they get quenched. They forget the pain. But me watching her in that pain, I remember the 1,000 degrees. I don't remember how it was like to cool down. And that stayed with me for a long time. Like I say, I don't know how it affected my relationships, but if it doesn't work, I go. Like I keep it moving, right? But when I realized, or I saw how my now dad is treating my mom, how my mother is happier, how my mother is progressing, how my mother is, I've not seen her this happy and this taken care of. And I kind of started to open up and kind of relaxed a bit. And that guy has really played a role in me healing. When my son has got school, when they want grandpa, he's there, right? Every event I go to, he's there sitting in front, which is things that Pimelo's dad used to do that I looked up to.
Yes.
That helped with the healing and the acceptance to say, yes, that was bad, but we are here now.
Yeah.
We move.
Yeah.
And that made it easier for me to also, I didn't want to get married in my life. Like it was just, I didn't want to get married. I didn't want to have children after I lost my sister at a young age. It was just a lot happening in the space of my mother's first marriage, of her having my sister, and then the sister, then the child is not okay, and then they're dead, and then there's a lot, and then the dad at the time is not supportive. I'm like, I'm not having this. But the dad I have now has kind of redeemed everything. You know, I pray now and say, God, thank you, and I'm sorry. I didn't want to give this guy a chance. And I'm grateful that it was not too late. I didn't stop the wedding, right? And I look at him and I see he's tried so hard to win me over because I was like, not interested. Like, you know, I was like, okay, whatever. But he's been patient with me until now we're like tight. He's one person that is in my corner all the time. And yeah, he's the hero of the redeeming man for me. And now fortunately, God blessed me with a good husband as well. Very similar to my stepdad. Very loving, very like boom wahafa. Like I can scream and do whatever. He's like looks at me and says, okay, you know, and also understands my upbringing and kind of accommodates these triggers. But yeah, I think there's good men out there. I think we just need to give them a chance, and we just need to be kinder to men as well.
Man, also what I heard is God is good.
Oh, God is good.
All the time.
Oh, natata.
So onto the nice stuff, the fun stuff. We're rooting for you. All of us in here, we're rooting for you. I want to know more about Mrs. South Africa. What is your main, I know there's an advocacy that everyone specifically focuses on. So what's your main, take us on that journey.
So for me, I advocate for education with the emphasis on STEM, being in the engineering space, right? We realize that a lot of our young people don't want to do math and science. Of course, it's not easy, but we would want to also encourage them to expose them to that engineering space. So with this platform now, I'm able to partner with different engineering companies to bring young people, like the last one we did was in Krugersdorp, where we had kids that were in around that area to come to a workshop where they can touch mechanical stuff. They can touch understand and see what a compressor is. They can see and wear the PPE helmet and see a welding machine. You know, sometimes you do your maths and science, they say calculate velocity, what is the pressure of, like you don't have really can't imagine what they're talking about. So the opportunity is now for us to expose children in experiential engineering, get them to go to the plants or workshops to really see and understand and explain to them the different types of engineering. And that in the engineering space, you can always divert in other things. You know, there's engineers now that work for the banks, for example. There's engineers that are now in the ministers, for example, in sales, in project management. So trying to open up engineering in a bigger space for them to understand opportunities that are in the field and how they can grow. And we think that young people always relate to seeing one of us who has been there. So in that workshop would bring industry experts to come and speak to them. They spend time with them. Currently arranging a site visit with Rivers Rail for young people to really see what I saw. I mean, for me, When I saw that Rivers Rail does their trains in South Africa, they refurbish everything from their toilets to their bed to everything. To see how we've got so much talent of technical people and artisans that are doing beautiful things for this train. And you know, sometimes with the artisans, we don't encourage them to say there's a space for you. Yes, there's a lot of people that would do the end and they don't end up nowhere, but we need to just show them that there is space for you in the mining industry, in the power industry, and the transport industry. So the idea is to encourage them and see, and for allow them to see those industries and the people in this, for them to push and add into the pool of engineers, of technicians, of artisans in the country.
Yes. Are you enjoying them, South African? It looks so stressful. That's one thing that would stress me out so much. It looks so stressful. Are you enjoying it?
So I'm enjoying the journey, and from a space of everyday learning, how to deal with people, how to deal with pressure, how to ask for money, how to plan events, how to ask for sponsorships, how to build relationships, how to accept other relationships that don't work out. So it's a very personal development journey, looking at yourself and say, okay, fine. In my case, for example, my biggest gap is I'm not able to ask for money. I'm the sponsor most of the time. I'm a giver than a receiver.
Yes.
And when you are a giver, you will funds deplete, right? I needed to learn the skill of asking for sponsorship, which is what the space is teaching me now, to knock, getting no's, and breathing and say, okay. And then a month later, the very same person that said no, they say, okay, yes now. So it's that, right? Of course, there's a lot of things that you need to do. You need to be posting on social media. There's a number of shoots that you have to be at. There's a number of events you need to be attending. You must arrange your own fundraiser. There's a lot of other sisterhood in terms of supporting other ladies' events. So there's not enough time to do everything. I think that's where the stress comes in, where you can't get to everything. But at the end of the day, it allows you to manage your time and make tough decisions to say, you know what, V, I can't make your podcast because I've got this. And evaluating opportunities that are coming your way, because you also need to understand your brand and what you want to be associated with. As you say yes, you need to be able to say your no's and the implications of your no's and the implications of your yeses. So you're right, it's very hectic. At the same time, it stretches you to be your best self. And then next year, I probably will reflect to say, okay, I went through the journey. What could I have done differently? What would have, it's a chapter that allows me to grow, to learn, and to really reflect in terms of who Mpumi is and what was my wins and what was my missed opportunities and what do I do differently.
Man, you see, I want you to be my Mrs. South Africa. Please. You're so well-spoken and poised. And look, I like hearing Black women successful, happy, like it actually worked out for them. Because I think as Black people, we like sad things. We like dwelling on the sad things, that we forget to celebrate the good things that are happening in people's lives. So it's really nice to have you come here and just... We're happy. Like everything is good.
No, honestly, I'm in a good space. And I say... I did not have the best of upbringings, and sometimes I'm like, maybe they paid me for let's mola, you know. And now I'm like, I'm here now. Maybe I don't even feel the pain. I'm more resilient. I'm more stronger, and I take every opportunity as, okay, it's an opportunity. I have it. What am I going to learn? Okay, whatever pain that comes with it. Okay. And I keep it moving. But to your point, I'm really grateful for my life.
Yes, and I know like the person that connected us, Uncle Lemmy, he was here actually before we ended the season. He literally, one thing he's always told me is how it always gets lighter. So you always speak, you just said like you didn't have the best of childhood upbringings, but there's this video that says it's like putting rocks inside your pockets and walking with them. But the longer you walk with them, the lighter it gets.
I love that.
It's not that it's not there, but the lighter it gets, and you know that it's there, and you learn to live and walk with those things. So I think it's really good, and I think a lot of people can look at you and say, you know what, it can also work out for me. It might suck right now. My dad might not be the best dad, or school's just tough, but you can also just chase other things and be a dreamer more than anything. So if you had like one thing to say to all the Black girls watching this platform from all different ages, obviously from mine going into yours, what's like one thing that you would say to them just to keep them like encouraged, just to keep them fighting and being that successful Black woman that we all want to be and aspire to be?
I always say where you come from does not define you as much as it's important because it reminds you where you come from, but it does not mean you must end there. Your environment should not define you. To say, I guess not this, I don't have this, therefore I can't have that. When you have opportunities, you must grab them with both hands and do more. Put in the time when you get that opportunity. More other opportunities open up. And I'll make an example. I didn't have money to register. Hence, I said I ended up registering late. Was waiting for my mother to get paid. And then I can move from Mountain View to stay in Soshanguve with no food. And it was okay because all I wanted was to register. I remember that one guy saying, you can't stay at home with these grades. And I'm like, okay, as soon as I register, which is an opportunity, space, I needed to study so that I can get a bursary. So I took that opportunity and make sure that I do well to get a bursary, right? And imagine if I just registered after the struggle of taking all the money from my home and then I don't do well. Yes. So young people should not mess up opportunities. When you get it, grab it and succeed and move with it because they don't come so often. And while you are there, some people are watching and the energies, more opportunities come. Yes. As I was doing well in my grades, you're attracting your lecturers. They are paying attention. They're happy to be helping you. As I was then busy with that, then life at home fell apart. And the bursary is delaying in paying. I had a risk of dropping out. And people were like saying, you must enter Miss TNG, Miss TAT at the time. It was an opportunity that was presented. Over and above what was happening at home, things are falling apart at home. Am I going to be able to do this? But it was an opportunity. I had to act like things are perfect at home, and make sure that my mother gets me shoes, contest, get those shoes, get my cousin to do my hair and go to that pageant. Because I understood at that time that pageant was sponsored by MTN, there was money. I needed the money to register and get my results. So it was an opportunity, and then I needed to think that I must make sure that I get in there and do my best. Winning that pageant helped me to register again and not drop out. An opportunity presented, I stepped up, won the pageant. When I'm in the pageant, you are reigning. It's an opportunity to reign and serve people, right? Yes. How are you serving? Who are you attracting? And when you're doing it authentically, to say, I'm here, I'm the queen, I'm supposed to be doing these programs, you do those programs. People are watching. And as they're watching me, remember you're reigning for 1 year. The money is going to finish. I need to register. Lucky for me, because I'm doing what I need to do the best way I can, then somebody says, people like you. There's an opportunity to be in the SRC. Do you mind? Immediately join SASCO. Then I'm now in the SRC. The question is, okay, what does it mean? Oh, free education. Yes. Perfect. My mother didn't have to worry about my fees since that day when she released her salary. I had opportunities. I made sure that I grabbed them and I did well in them. Yeah. So young people, make sure you grab the opportunity, you do well, you run with it. Yeah. Things will fall into place.
No, I love that. Your dedication and how determined you were from a young age to the person that you are now. It makes sense. It really makes sense. So thank you so much for coming. And before we wrap it up, I want to know, please tell everyone how to vote for you. So we will put it up somewhere on the screen, the whole poster and flyer, and it will be on our social media platforms. But tell everyone how to follow you on Instagram, how to vote for you, and just push your journey further in Mrs. South Africa.
Again, thanks for the opportunity. So for you to be able to vote for me, first of all, you need to follow me, Mpumi Pule on Facebook. and on Instagram. And if you would want to SMS vote me, you must SMS Mpumi Pule to 47587. 47587. You write my name, Mpumi Pule. That would be the Public Choice Award under the Mrs. South Africa. I think what is important, the biggest support is just keep praying for me. I get a lot of voice notes, a lot of words of encouragement that go a long way. I love those. And yeah, like my posts, and yeah, come to Emperor's Palace on the 15th of November to watch the finale where the crowning will be happening.
Oh yes, it's a date. We're all going. We're all in agreement. We're all going. Yes.
I'll hold you to that. So yeah, but yeah, I think Mpumi Mangena Pule, Facebook, Instagram. Follow Mrs. South Africa as well. Like my post, and yeah, keep supporting and praying for me, V.
No, definitely we won't stop. We're all about God and God's favor and everything. So we'll definitely do that. But we'll attach all the information in the description as well. Social media as well. You'll find it at Mindful Unfoldings. And thank you guys so much for watching today's episode. Thank you so much for coming.
It's over.
Yes,
No,
it's
I'm not
over.
Going. I want to stay more.
No, it's over. But thank you so much for coming.
It
was a pleasure meeting you. May God's favor continue overflowing in your life. Good luck on the rest of your journey. We will come to Emperor's Palace. I'm going to hold everyone in here accountable. They heard me and we are going. And we're going to support you all the way. Thank you for supporting me. I always say I'm so grateful the way people are always willing to come and put a hand into what we're trying to do, what I'm trying to do. And man, again, God's grace. And thank you guys so much. It feels good to be back home. And you know, we're gonna continue bringing amazing people on the platform. Continue reaching out actually to tell me who you guys would like to hear. Obviously, you know, the most weirdest thing ever is that someone was like, can you please bring like people in working fields, like things like engineering or doctors, just to hear their journeys because they're so scared into like diving into these kind of things. So I hope maybe it's helped those 3 people. I know it's 3 people that ask me about engineers, especially women. So I hope it inspires and it helps people and encourages people just to continue holding on and just doing their best. But more than anything, thank you so much. And I can't wait to spend more time with just different guests. But anyways, guys, please follow us at Pusang Studios on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Follow myself at Viola Nkambule and at Mindful Unfoldings on Instagram and TikTok. And I will see you guys next week. Love and light and bye.
Thank you.